Has it been fun to do that? I mean, restaurants are nefariously difficult.
It's been the most stressful thing I've ever done.
That's what I figured.
It has put a new layer of anxiety icing on top of all the other anxiety I had already from doing stand-up, podcasting, acting, and being single and not owning a home into my mid-40s.
Let's get into that. So other than circumstantial anxiety.
Let's get into it because I forgot to set my BetterHelp session for this week.
That's fantastic.
So let's go.
So you when I met you at the front door, you said you'd stopped your anxiety meds or some meds for something. So I'll make it easy on you. I have anxiety disorder. I've had generalized anxiety my whole life. There's different flavors of anxiety. There are people that anxiety leads into depression.
Yeah.
And there are people that depression creates anxiety. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
And in my world, the people that have more of the depression that goes towards anxiety tends to have more of an OCD flavor.
Okay.
And so I have lots of obsessive compulsive stuff that these gentlemen will tell you all about, give me shit about on a regular basis.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
But, I look at all of these qualities that our brains have that we inherit through evolutionary biology as having assets and liability.
Sure.
Right? So in medicine, having OCD is extremely helpful because you check and you double check and you doubt yourself and you even when you're sure you checked it, you check it again.
Wow.
And that was very, very helpful for many, many years. And there's no effort to that. You just do it because that's your anxiety makes you do it. But I went into therapy when I was like about 33 because the anxiety was driving my wife crazy. And so
it's so funny. I thought you meant when you said I went into therapy, I thought you meant like you were
did
a
therapy.
therapist.
Well, I know I've done lots of work with people.
But you meant no, you went in.
I went for treatment for like 10 years.
You're like, it's so interesting because I never knew any of this about you. I watched Loveline and I've heard your radio show and some of the podcasts and I'm very familiar with you, obviously. But I never knew this side of you or about this side. And you're almost like you're like Nurse Jackie. It's like you're the healthcare person, but you have all these things going on.
There's a reason that people that work in recovery are often in recovery.
Yeah,
it helps you.
Wow.
And the other thing, because I had bad enough anxiety that I really needed to clean things up, I became an instrument that I could really use for other people. It was very helpful.
That's interesting too, because when I talk to friends and my friends are in certain emotional dilemmas and stuff like that, and I only say this because they often say to me like, dude, this is great. Like you're good at this. Like I'm very good at giving advice. I'm very good at giving sound, practical advice. I'm terrible at figuring it out for myself. I always have to talk to somebody else, and I think that's a weird, it's almost, I feel like it's almost like with anxiety, it's like being in AA. Where it's like you could be a good sponsor to somebody, but it doesn't mean you're not an alcoholic and don't have your own struggle going.
Correct.
That you need somebody to talk to you about.
Oh yeah, but the and I don't know if this is a difference or if it's what you're doing is that before you can be a sponsor, you have to have your shit together. You have to be in the program a while.
My shit together.
So, I mean,
but I dial out the advice.
But still an alcoholic. They're still an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But they've worked on their shit and done the process. So how did you learn that you had anxiety? I mean, how old were you when you first?
It was being shot awake at all hours with a stomach ache. So
you're physical. You were having somatic.
It manifested. I could go as far back as adoption and the abandonment issues that come along with that. And
do you ever talk about that in therapy?
I have in the past. My current therapist, we haven't gotten to it yet.
So that sort of
other stuff.
Abandonment sort of dovetails into attachment. And so are there attachment issues? I
definitely have. Not in the sense of I don't get overbearing, but I get my feelings hurt very easily. I often think that, like Ryan, who works here, who's a friend of mine, was just in the studio before we started. And he said a really nice thing to me. He said a really nice compliment. And my reaction was, oh, that's so nice. That's so surprising to hear. You know what I mean? Yes. Because my head doesn't work where I think people are going to compliment me. I feel like everybody's going,
what's up with that asshole?
How do we edge this guy out? You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's interesting.
It's terrible.
But it's interesting. but it's interesting. You frame it as edging out.
Right?
How do we leave this guy? How do we put him out? How do we abandon this dude?
When I asked Ryan if he, again, who's an old friend, hey, if you're around, can you come to one of my shows this weekend?
Yeah.
I was expecting him to go, yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and he does me one better. He goes, yeah, I already bought tickets. And I was like, wait, what? And then you're like, oh, wait, no, people and they like you. It's okay. Not everybody is trying to get away from you. So but it's just where my head goes.
Well,
it's terrible.
And the Dom thinks it's funny.
Yeah, it is kind of funny.
I just sense, I'm Jewish. I have those tendencies.
But here's the deal. People would want to tell you, you got to work on that and get rid of that. It's like, no, you can't. That's going to be your frame. That's sort of that's your position.
It's an interesting approach to therapy, Drew.
But listen, but listen, you can manage it.
Sure.
And it can become all these things can become assets.
Yeah, I agree.
And so it becomes who you are. I'm like, let me think about my own stuff. It doesn't come to mind for me, but I have my own I have difficulty connecting with my own primary feelings. Like that was my task in therapy. Like feelings were way out in the distance and I couldn't quite feel them. And I still have to pay attention. Or guess what? I pass them by and then I get anxious.
Right.
Because anxiety is the only thing I feel. And so there you go. And by the way, for me, as long as he makes you feel good to hear about my shit, my awareness, my understanding that I have mental health issues came in when I was 19. So usually 18 to 22 is when this stuff all starts.
Yeah.
I started having disabling panic attacks.
Okay.
Like couldn't get out of bed, couldn't function. I didn't know why.
I didn't have panic attacks. I've had them before.
They're fun, huh?
Yeah,
it's good times.
It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah,
like, it's just
people
horrible.
don't understand that. How could it be the worst thing ever?
Yeah,
a heart attack isn't worse. It's like, well, when you're in it, it feels worse. You'd rather have a heart attack because you can point at that.
A panic attack feels like, I don't know if you've done drugs in your lifetime, but I've done many.
Huh.
And
congratulations.
Yeah,
that helps with anxiety always.
A panic attack feels when you're on a bad trip, when you're on a bad mushroom or acid trip, and it is full on and it's bad, and you cannot. People say, I hate when people go, well, you just tell yourself it's a drug.
No,
that's not how your brain works.
Yeah. It's a trapped feeling. You're trapped in it.
That's what a panic attack feels like.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And a bad trip, if you've ever experienced one, is a nightmare. And a panic attack feels the same way.